We are live.
Hello, people. Hope everyone is doing well. I know that the answer to all my problems are hard work. If I want to accomplish a job, I have to work hard at it. Have some experience helps. Usually, the hardest part of success is getting started and then working hard at it. If I want to get along with my woman, I have to work hard at it, focus on it. So, we have been
Damn it, Flash.
working on video. It's on.
Okay, I'm back.
Had a Chinese crested dog bump into the wiring, which it shouldn't knock it loose that easily, but it did. Either
He
way,
was circling and circled up in the wire.
he only turns left, so he's sort of like NASCAR. Only turns left. He never turns right. He will back up before he turns left or right. So anyway, his name is Flash, and he's just not fast. He thinks he is when he gathers himself up to run. He really looks like he's going fast, but he's not. Anyway, it's been an interesting day. Today, for me, just to give you an example, I finished up a roof over a deck a year or so ago. I added on to the deck so it went up against a above ground pool. And then they said, hey, could you cover the deck? And so I did. Today I finished it up. And then I went and looked at a water problem, a water heater problem, sort of, and it didn't take, but it took 2 to 3 minutes to fix that. And then I went to look at a air conditioning A coil and found that it needed the pan fixed or replaced the A coil. Talked to the owner of the apartment complex, and he says, is there any way you could fix it? I said, I think so. I've used to do it. It's been nearly 20 years since I have. And so I went on. By that time, I had already moved on to fixing a stove. The burner was bad on one out of the four, and the element on the oven was bad. So we got all that figured out and ordered. We then also looked at a sewer line that was in an RV park that they pulled the RV out and broke a 90 in the ground, which is wild. I would have thought it would have broke something else, but it broke it right through the thickest part of the 90. And generally, that's you would have broke something else. Anyway, we're gonna eventually fix that. Probably the next time I'm over there, so I don't have to charge for a special trip. And those are just part. And then the owner said, "Hey, can you fix that pan?" So that's what I'm gonna do. I checked around to see if I could find some metal that I can use here, and that's what I'm going to do tomorrow at his request. So these are some of the things that I deal with. It's wide ranging, constantly changing, uh, and I'm okay with that. I'm not complaining. That's also what you have available to you here to ask anything you have a question about. I had a lady call me today from Vermont. No, yesterday from Vermont. She had some questions on how to insulate the bottom of her mobile home that she was fixing up. I guess she was going to sell it, and she wanted to make sure that it was in Vermont, ready for the winter before she sold it. And she was like, "I really appreciate the things that you've done for me as far as the videos, and I appreciate you talking to me, which I'm happy to do as long as I have the time. Well, sometimes I'm out of pocket, and I'm trying to, or if I'm doing electrical work, I keep my phone away from me because that can cause grief, because that can make me jump when the phone rings while I'm messing with a live electricity. So anyway, I'm happy to answer those questions, and that's what this is for. To answer questions that you guys might have. and don't feel bad about interrupting or not. This is I'm filling in the gaps with information that I have experienced and have learned both from other people and mostly from experience, like everything from experience. But I did learn, and I should give credit to those who taught me. Um, so you can ask any question at any time, and it's what it's designed for. And ask me anything. To get back onto the subject that I'm talking about today is moving your mobile home or a mobile home. Some of these things, if you haven't bought the mobile home and you're thinking maybe I'll purchase the mobile home, you might want to use this information before you do because you don't know about all the expenses that you might have or the things you need to do in order to move it. So I'm going to discuss that. Hopefully, I'll cover as much as I can. There's ever changing circumstances um, in it. So not everything will be covered, but I believe most of it. The first thing you want to do is determine if you think that mobile home will fit the site that you want to go with it. Or maybe that's really what you want to do is where are you going with it? And understand that it has to be uh, that length of a home plus the length of the mobile home mover, the toter they call it. It has to have all that to be able to go down the road. Now, believe me, if they are a good mover, they have the ability to slide it sideways and do all kinds of things, but it won't shape itself in the shape of a U. So if there are trees that need to be cut, all those things, you'll need to be conscious of that. And you don't want a tremendously steep hillside without considering where you're going to put it. And does it have the utilities maybe, or are you going to do it later? These are all things that you need to be considering, including whether or not that county allows for you to have it there. So you want to make sure that they allow for you to have one in that area. Sometimes, like I think in a county not adjacent to ours, they want a minimum of 5 acres tied to it, unless it's an approved mobile home park. They want 5 acres minimum, so you can have. And I've also heard on another county where they say they want the ability to have 2 uh, areas for septic tank. So find out what your county requires septic tank. Set field lines from the septic tank. So whatever area it takes for field lines, they want you to be able to change it when that one fills up, and then another. I don't know why they want it different for a mobile home than they do for a house, but there's always hoops that they make you jump through in order to have a mobile home. A lot of the time, not always. So when you're doing this, consider even if and I drove through a community not far from here that they literally spray painted on the side of it free trailer. Okay, so you can get a free trailer, and you have to decide whether or not what expenses you have next. Now we discussed now the where you're going to put it, and now we're going to discuss, do you think that house will go down the road? And the reason I want you to look into this, one of the types of mobile homes that you see out there, double wide and single wide, are masonite coated mobile homes. They have particular issues with rotting out what is called a ridge beam. So you have floor joists that go across the frame. Frame goes lengthways, and then the floor joists go across. Ridge beam is the 2x6 that goes on the outside. And so why am I talking about that? Well, it is on the outside. And the siding, which is masonite, it is notorious. It's basically laminated paper. It's still being sold as far as I know. And if you don't keep it coated, all the cracks, nails sealed, it will swell up and the moisture will run down that uh, vinyl that masonite siding, and it will hit the where the 2x6 is on the bottom, and that's the very bottom of the siding. So it soaks in to that 2x6. And why does that matter? Well, believe it or not, even though you have a frame on both sides and stiffeners and outriggers out there, the strength of that frame is very, very reliant on the 2x6s on the outside. So when they start rotting, when you get ready to, when I'm talking about serious rot, and they use a lot of times, a neglected masonite mobile home will have totally rotted 2x6s on the outside, okay, on that rim joist. It will be thoroughly rotted. So when you go to hook that thing up, you pull the blocks, which we'll talk about that in a minute, and you hook it onto a mobile home. Quite often what you'll see is, and the mover will say, I don't want to pull it, because it'll be 2 inches off the ground in the front and the back end will be 2 inches off the ground. And going down the road, it's trying to pull that mobile home apart. And literally it will separate that single rolled up dipped tin that they have on top. It will pull it apart because that house is trying to pull apart. And I have seen it where they try to slide off the frame. It would leave, and the mover will say, look, I'll pull it, but if it breaks down, I'm leaving it. It's up to you to fix it. So I want you to understand it's not impossible, but it is hard work to fix that ridge beam. So what you have to do is cut the siding back, and you can do that. I've done it. And then take that 2x6 off. And not only does it rot the 2x6 ridge beam on the outside, it will rot out the floor joist. So you'll end up splicing on here and there 2x6s onto the floor joist to bring it out, and then screw together all. And usually it's nailed together. So you're doing better by putting screws into a brand new 2x6s, 16-foot long, hopefully 2x6s, and then you can put it down both sides and you're ready to go. But that's a lot of work, and if you're not doing it yourself, you're at that expense. So with a Mason home, be aware that you need to look at the ridge beam, the 2x6s that go on the outside.
Is there a way you can tell it's a masonite home?
Yeah, I can, in a heartbeat. It's like a T111 grooved
But
look.
is there like something that
It looks like laminated paper when you look at the edges.
That's what I'm asking.
It's not, when you buy it new, it looks like sort of like regular plywood, but you flip it on the back side and it looks like stamped not grooves, but it's kind of like diamonds or squares, little tiny squares where it's stamped, squished together. It has a wood grain look and with grooves cut into it to kind of match the old T111, which that pattern is still available now. But you can get T111 in wood, regular pine, and then you can get it in cedar, and you can get it really cheapy T111 style. And then the T111 is on 8-inch centers, I believe. Then they have some that are wider, 9, 10. But it was meant to be an inexpensive way to not have real wood. It's just meant to cut expenses, and they still sell it as far as I know. Recently, I've seen some for sale. They also made masonite lap siding, but that was not on mobile homes. Mobile homes use a 4x8 sheet on masonite, and you've seen it. Uh, I've seen it quite a lot. So that would be one. If you have a masonite sided mobile home, you want to see if that ridge beam is rotted. Now, can it happen on metal sided? Yes. Or vinyl sided? Yes. But you want to look at the ridge beam, and it won't usually be the case with metal because metal sheds unless they really abused and tore it all up and let water get inside, then you might have to replace a section in that area. But generally, no, it's not with metal or any other material like vinyl siding. It's generally not the case. It's very usually it happens with masonite siding. So that would be something very, very important. Another thing you might do, and it might seem more than what you would think is your expertise, but you want to see if the frame is bent. Believe it or not, houses get their frames bent and go down the road anyway. But if sometimes they nurse them in right up to the very end, and they drag them in. I have had one that, and this will lead in segue into another subject. I had one where I told them that they needed to uh, take the furniture out, and they said, we'll think about it. And I said, okay, but if you don't, there's a high risk that you're going to fold this house. Okay. Uh, but they ignored it and said, no, we don't want to spend the extra money. It wasn't even the relatives. It was the two women that had taken over the care of these people that I had been working with for all the time. And they decided, no, we're not going to. We're going to save the money from having to buy a U-Haul and storage and all that work unloading it. We just want to put everything on the floor, da 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 da. Well, going up a steep hill on the way to the site, which we were aware of, somebody broke down on the side of the road and blocked about a third of the road. And mind you, this house is 16 wide. So we had a hard time getting around this broken down truck, but we did get around it. In doing so, we had to maneuver and get around it with using the hitch. And there was so much weight that it folded the hitch. And we were probably, uh, I wouldn't say a quarter of a mile, but probably an eighth of a mile away. And the driver said, "Man, I don't know, man. We can't leave right here on the side of the road. I mean, right now on the hillside, we're blocking the whole road." And I said, "Look, what we're going to do is pull it in straight. Going to drag it in on the tongue. The tongue is welded underneath, and we're going to get it there. We're not going to leave it on the side of the hill." And he didn't. This is when he proceeded to tell me that he didn't have a driver's license. Okay, and a really nice truck, but I'll talk to you about that later. We drug it on in and put it on site. The owners didn't have, they thought maybe that was part of it, dragging it on its tongue. Of course, the tongue folded and bent up, and I kept telling him, hey, let's raise it up. And we got it on site and leveled it all up. It did bend the frame some, but not as much as you would think. Now, other times you might go through a valley or a ditch and you drag the back. What happens then is that frame will fold under or go out. Most of the time it won't go out because there's frame stiffeners. Doesn't happen often, but usually it'll fold like so and try to do some weird things on the back. But when it does, the wheels and the weight of the house will bow down and you'll get these wrinkles in the frame where the wheels are, usually in front of the wheels. Because the weight is lifting up, it tries to wrinkle it. Other times they get the back end hung up and go turning and don't realize it. Say he doesn't have good workers with him, and it tries to bend the frame, both frames, in front of the wheels again. Usually not in the back, but it can. And you'll see these bends generally either right up by the tongue, front and back of the wheels, or on the back. And then the very back is not as much of a big deal. In the tongue area, it's important. You may have to hire a welder to stiffen it up. Maybe not. You need to check that tongue and make sure if it has one. That's another thing you need to see is if you have a tongue for this mobile home. You can get them You have to go to a mobile home dealer or a mobile home mover and have a welder weld it on or bolt it on. Occasionally, you can get them to where they match up. If it's the original tongue, it should be able to bolt up unless it was welded in place, and then it will have to be, if it's been cut off so you can put skirting on it, you can weld plates on both sides of that tongue.
I think
But
we have videos of you doing that.
so you may have to hire a welder to do that. Put plates on both sides of the metal of the, so it won't, that tongue will not break and fold like I just told you about that situation. So now, if you have shingles on that home, you're going to want to put uh, some strips of wood right at the very front, probably within a foot of the very front on both sides, and maybe another couple back, because you get a lot of wind at the beginning. Now, after it goes past the front, you don't want it to peel off the shingles. So the mover may take care of that for you, but if it's shingles, you may have to take care that will is done in order for you to be able to go down the road. All right, so we talked about frame, talked about the ridge beam, the shingles. Uh, One of the things you're going to have to do to get it ready to go down the road is disconnect the air conditioning. If it's done right, a good air conditioning man can shut off on the high pressure side, leave the suction side open, push the contactor on, pull all the freon into the compressor or that area and the condensing coil, and then you can shut it down with the Allen wrench, let go of the contactor, and you've trapped all the freon or most of the freon inside the air conditioning unit, which can then be released again. Sometimes that shut off doesn't work, but most of the time it does. And now what they do is just recover it, and then they charge you for more freon on the other end and try to sell you a new one. Why do they try to sell you a new one? Because most of the time these guys are not getting the top wages they should be. I think that's all going to change. Instead of $40 an hour and having the skill level, they're getting 21, 25 in this area. And they're told, hey, if you sell a new unit to the customer, we'll give you a $700 bonus. So every guy wants that $700 bonus. So that's why you get like, oh, you need to replace. I would always try to find somebody honest, and that's getting hard to do because everybody's used to taking advantage. Anyway, whenever you vacuum that freon out, then you're going to cut those lines, and hopefully you can strap them up with wire. A lot of times I use like inexpensive wire to tie it up on the what they call the outriggers from the frame to the outside to help support the ridge beam. You're going to tie it up to it so that it doesn't drag going down the road and flop around. Um, you might hire somebody to do that, but it's what's going to have to be done, and that includes the thermostat wire. The thermostat wire will have to be disconnected, as well as those the vacuum line and the high pressure line, and the power to it. So if it's done right, you don't have to cut the wire and then splice it in. You take it loose from the contactor or the breaker inside, pull it loose, bring it to the unit itself, and then the unit can literally be put in the mobile home unless you're worried about scratch the floor. If you put down cardboard and put it in through the door and set it in the kitchen area, usually there's a doorway there somewhere, and you can put it on a piece of cardboard or such. And that little bit of weight will not make a difference, and it'll be right there. I've seen problems with uh, guys not tying down the condenser and driving down the road. The condenser gets crushed by all the things that are on the trailer and a hole in the coils. And so that can, anytime you separate the two, it ends up sometimes causing, you increase the odds of failure. And whenever you do, you're folding the copper lines so that nothing gets in there, rain, dirt, junk. You're trying to keep moisture from getting in the lines so that whenever they vacuum it down, they don't have to run 24 hours to vacuum it down to pull all the moisture out. So you're going to fold that, roll it up a little bit, fold it, and they can cut it off later and solder it back together. On the other end, you may end up needing more copper depending on the location and the drain line for that air conditioner. You'll need to put it up. That drain line will be usually hanging on the downhill side, or at least it should be on the downhill side. If you put on the uphill side of a mobile home, the water will trickle down and go to the piers, and then you end up re-leveling all the time. That may be a problem that you're already dealing with because somebody didn't want to bother to run it on, it's shorter for them to go uphill than downhill. So they just go uphill and then the moisture comes down and makes the piers settle. Either way, that's the drain line you'll also have to deal with. Then you will need to disconnect the supply, the electrical supply, which is usually now 200 amp service, but it could be 100 amp wire. Usually, though, now it's 200 amps, so it's 2-aught wire, and the newer ones will be 4 leads. So that'd be 2 hots, a neutral, and a green ground.
I wouldn't do less than a 200.
Well, in this area, they require that you have a minimum of a 200 amp service, even though you have a 100 amp mobile home. Because if you have gas, you have really very little need for electric. You're not using electric heat. You have gas heat. You're not using electric stove. You got gas. You can actually have a gas propane or natural gas water heater also.
I started to say that we run into it, but then it dawned on me we've got all the machinery, and
Right.
that's where we're running into problems.
So that would, you want to be looking at how, now for a 200 amp 4-wire, that's like 950 a foot. That's a chunk of money. It's getting close to $10 a foot with tax. It'll be more. So you might consider trying to save it, even if it means pulling out of the pipe in the ground, or if it's directly buried in the ground, pulling it, digging it up, pulling it up, because that's a chunk of money.
Yeah.
That's a chunk of money. So if you do, pull it loose from the panel if you need to. You can splice it. You can cut it off right below the bottom of the mobile home and splice it underneath. Sometimes that leads to maintenance later, but everything requires maintenance. You're just increasing the possibility. Now, you would also disconnect it from the panel where the power is coming from. So you shut your breaker off and disconnect it. So now you've got whatever wire you could save, and you keep that from dragging also by tying it up. All right. So we've done the air conditioning connections and the electrical connections. Now, if you have natural gas or propane, you need to disconnect that. That's something you need to consider. So that might be rigid pipe. It might be a flex line that you need to disconnect. But again, you will need to tie those up so that they don't drag and get wore out. And tie them up in a secure fashion, all these things, so that going down the road 50 mile an hour and through brush or whatever, that you might not think, but sometimes that home has to go through in order to get there through some weeds and things like that. So get it up there and tie it secure. Going down the road, it's going to bounce quite a bit. If you got a mobile home for a good price, most of the time the mover doesn't really care about whether or not you have axles or not. The reason is he's going to put his axles on generally, unless it's fairly new home that it still has the axles. Most of them don't. And the reason I say that is because he checks those axles that he's got and he makes sure they're good to roll. and grease them and all that stuff. And everything that you might have been sitting for 10 years, 15 years and have rust in it. And he don't want to be stuck on the side of the road with a burned up bearing. Okay. So axles are not as important as you might think, but the brackets that the axles are attached to might mean something. Does that make sense to you? All right. So the brackets, the shackles, and all that, the shackles and all the things hanging there, that will be generally something your mover would be involved with. If there is porches, you're going to need to disconnect those porches from that home and pull them back a good ways. Sometimes quite a ways if it has to turn immediately. Okay. If you don't do it, the mover is going to be, uh, saying I'm going to charge more for it, or if you don't have somebody do it, sometimes a mover will do it, but mind you, that mover is going to charge you in this area $5,000 to move a single wide, twice as much to move a double wide, and whatever degree of difficulty he has, he thinks he will have in moving it, which he will check the route if he's any good at all. He would before he gives you a price. He might say, well, you go, hey, how much you normally charge? He goes, well, I charge $5,000, but I need to check the route. And that's what you want to hear him say, because he may find that I can't get there. And that's something you want to hear before you purchase the mobile home. Hey, how much would you charge me to move it from this point to this point? And they're used to making those estimates all the time. They are very busy, but whenever it rains, they're not, because for 3 days after it rains, generally they don't want to move unless they're, because if they get off the pavement or the gravel, any at all, they start spinning. And yeah, you can say, well, you could throw plywood on there, but believe me, plywood's not going to do it. You're looking at a $30,000 to $40,000 half or single wide home without furniture in it, 30,000 pounds. Okay, if it's masonite, it'd be 40,000 without any furniture in it. And if you have furniture in there, shelving, I recommend you get it out, because you do not want to add to the odds of that frame slash ridge beam, whatever, to fail. You do not want that to happen. You would lose your investment right there. You would not be able to fix it without a lot of money on the side of the road. I've seen them movers where they leave them on the side of the road and call you, hey, that's as far as we could go. Now, that is very, very important that you seem very pragmatic about whether or not you want to leave the furniture in it. Don't add furniture to it either. Don't, if you can, don't leave the furniture in it. You don't want any light fixtures. You don't want any fans unless you secure those fans so they're not swinging around, because that thing's got a lot of things moving on down the road. So fans, the toilet tops, stoves,
Oh, okay.
refrigerators, all those things, if you leave them in there, you need to secure them so they don't move around. One of the classic mistakes I've seen is people do is they'll take tape to hold the.
Okay. Mover here got 20K to move and set up a double wide with footers less than 100 yards from its original location. Damn.
Wow.
Wow.
Well, I think that's
Excessive.
you may have okay. Here's what's going on, like in the trades, and I would say a very specialized trade mobile home moving is the insurance for those guys has got to be $50,000-$60,000 a year.
Crazy.
Like $1,000 a week for them to have if they don't have a lot of problems. 20 years ago it was 30 something thousand. Okay, so those guys got to keep moving. They got to keep making money. The machinery costs money. Now they're using mechanized robots of sorts to lift it up and twist, get it moved out. With I would like to defend that, but
That
that
is hard to
that
defend.
sounds like 1 2 days work making $20,000. That seems
Excessive.
excessive to the extreme. But I'm seeing it with air conditioning. I'm seeing it with electricians. I'm seeing it with plumbers.
And
Uh,
you're gonna I think it's just gonna get worse with the trades.
these are the things I want you to think about whenever you get ready to move a home. Before you even take a free one, understand
It ain't
how
free.
much it's going to cost. People try to give me mobile homes all the time, and I say, well, you know, give me a home is generally like giving me a pregnant cat. I'm going to have a bunch more problems than just the cat. I'm going to have kittens to deal with too. So there's always issues. Thank you for putting that in. I, man, I had to brace myself. I had a long time customer, that one I told you about that I finished up the roof in 4 or 5 hours time. They called an electrical contractor because I was out of pocket. I couldn't be reached. They called an electrical contractor because they had an electrical problem. Charged them $10,000, a round figure of $10,000 for 5 hours of work, and I don't maybe $1,000 worth. I no way there was $1,000 worth of material. So, and they're financing it. Imagine that. I noticed that Pascal
You
and
just sent a whole bunch of a thumbs up and a crying cat.
yeah, so Pascal is a big. All these guys are the air conditioning guys that start out air conditioning, like Anderson in this area. They start out doing air conditioning, making so much profit, they get into all the other trades like electrical and plumbing also. So they're doing air conditioning, electrical, and plumbing. Anyway, mobile home movers, man, you got to do whatever they say.
It's kind of a unique.
They have massive expense. So these are the things that I'm wanting you to look into. Now, if you have a fireplace, on a fake fireplace, even there is a flue up there. Make sure that that flue comes down because you do not want it going down the road. Usually, your mover can look into that and take care of it. If you have gas heat, there will be a flue coming up on that. Make sure that that comes down and not go down the road and catch a line and pull somebody's TV out of the wall through the wall.
Didn't you say that one of your mover friends?
My best friend Hines was talking about they moved a log cabin through a little scenic town called Eureka Springs, and the cabin itself, not the chimney or anything, caught the guy had been stealing cable from a place across the street, and he ran a sagging wire across there. And when they went through, it caught it and it pulled the TV through the wall. And of course, the mover, the owner, he goes, "Hey, go back there and pay him for that TV." And so he had, whatever sum of money. It was like, he just, I don't want anybody to know that I was stealing. But the cable was stronger than the wall and it pulled it through. Uh, been through several times where a mover didn't pull those flues out, like for the water heater, for the heater, and see them, they have me escort, usually because we have a very difficult uh, spot on the other side, and that thing comes flying off going down the road, and I pick it up for them. I don't get paid extra for that, but I just didn't feel like it was right for the owner not to now have to replace that. Make sure if you have a water heater door on the outside, make sure that door is secure so it doesn't come out going down the road because I've seen that too. Uh, One of the movers that I've dealt with, very friendly with him, he was going down the freeway and somebody flicked a cigarette inside the water heater area, and the house caught on fire while he was pulling it down the freeway. It burned on the side of the freeway. So I'm not saying protect yourself from guys flicking a cigarette. That is just a really weird deal. Um, but you want to secure all the things that are loose and possible flying off going down the road. Um, so like toilet tops, as I mentioned, uh, light fixtures that have loose glass on them, like hanging down. Chandeliers need to come down. Fans need to come down or be, tie wires to the ceiling or strings to the ceiling so they don't totally tear the fan up and uh, the wall, the ceiling. The blades will be tore up. Don't put tape on the cabinet doors because those cabinet doors are not real wood generally. They are paper coated to make it look like real wood. And if you pull that tape off, I don't care if it's quick release tape, it will pull the finish off. So if you're going to do it, you can do things like tie string from one handle to the other, and they'll just move a little bit. Um, Make sure your stove is secure. That's why that steel bracket on the back, it was meant to hold the stove has a place where it's set in there. Well, if you got a new stove, you replace the original, it won't have that, it won't fit that bracket. And what you're having to do is make sure that thing doesn't move somehow. Because if it moves, it'll go just slide back and forth on your flooring and tear up your floor. It's just all these odd things that might start moving while you're going down the road.
That you don't think about.
Right. So we now have water supply line. Generally, you have a shut off right below the water heater, and then you have a shut off wherever your meter is. You want to tie that thing up securely. We talked about moving your porches back. Okay. Consider also that you will need to uh, pull your skirting down. If you're if it's uh, high to begin with, it's possible that you can just have the mover set it. Another thing you might understand is that movers, in order to do it quick, they go up, block it off, pull the wheels out, and they don't come put it down where it's low. So anytime you see a mobile home that's setting up high, it's because the mover didn't want to drop it. You want to be able to crawl underneath the frame, which you need at least 10, 12 inches to get underneath that frame. And if it's a fat plumber, he's not going to make it. But 10, 12, 14, 16 inches, that's a good low mobile home. The lower you are, the less wind catches and moves the mobile home. I want to be clear, you will not be able to guarantee that wind won't tear that home up. I'm just saying it increases your odds. So when you go to the other site, you might have that mover set it a little lower if possible, so that your skirting will not have to be lengthened and replaced, but actually cut off and put on. And you're going to keep all your skirting. If you think it's going to be similar, uh, I doubt it. The terrain is going to be different everywhere you go, just a little bit. You might consider numbering it, but you could stack it up and save it. Vinyls, a lot of times I've taken it off, put it down, and rolled it up into a roll, and and away we go. Your sewer line's going to have to be cut loose. Try not to cut it right up next to the a coupling or a, a T or a 90 coming out. If you cut it right up there, you have to cut the coupling too. Now you might be getting way up inside there and having to replace it all the way up to the toilet because sometimes those connections are one fitting after another with nothing in between. So when you cut it right next to that, you can't easily fix it. Okay, so try to leave yourself where you can put a coupling onto it, cut it there, save it. Uh, you might have to cut it down, but you could probably get it in on a trailer or in the house itself. Again, mind you, that's sewer water that you're dealing with, so you might want to keep in mind where each piece went, so you can go. But I mean, where you go to on your new site might be different, but you want to try to not cut next to couplings or any kind of fitting. You want to be able to fit it where you can put a coupling on it. All right. Uh, Now, what we have left, blocks. Uh, Most of the time, your mover will take care of all your blocks and wedges and things like that. I wouldn't be too. I wouldn't get too caught up in the expense of the blocks. They're even now about $2 a piece. They're not that much, and sometimes you end up with broken ones. So that's not terribly unusual. Usually, a mover, when he charges $20,000, he don't care about blocks. He's making tons of money. He can buy you brand new blocks, but they invariably will not. Um, so you might not worry too much about blocks. There's also the anchors slash straps. Most of the time, unless you have an anchor auger, if it's a screw-in anchor, you're going to have a hard time getting those anchors out. I'm not saying it's not possible, but it is very difficult. I have two augers, but they're expensive. They can be $1,000 a piece. Usually, a mover, if he's of evil mind, he can take care of it, but he's going to charge you extra for that. That's brutal. Uh, what he's going to charge because evidently they're getting rich by this. Um, so you got your straps. You don't want to cut your straps off too much because it's kind of hard to extend them. You can. They make a buckle that allows you to extend them, but you can generally you'll just end up. That's for your overheads. Most of the time,
Notice that one of my blocks has a gap, small gap to the bottom of my trailer the other day.
you know, usually that means your house is settling some. You can drive a wedge up and just try to keep everything tight. The movement is what tears a house up. I don't care if it's a mobile home or a conventional home. You want everything to not move as much. So that would mean that you might get some ground movement up. So the weird thing about if you think about a mobile home, say like I used to keep a cracker box around. So it's not as flexible. It's not as stiff as you might think, but it is in general stiff. So if this mobile home tilts down in the front here, it lifts up back here. Okay. So it tilts down this side, it lifts over on this side and the back. Tilts up on here, down over here means it lifts up over here. So you might check for that.
May have been like since they moved the trailer is settled.
Yes. You're in houses settle. Conventional homes, brick homes, houses settle. The There's the only thing that stays the same is everything changes. Okay, there will always be maintenance, always. The fun
It's
thing,
a middle pier.
yeah, but you can have the other side come down; it'll lift up over here. Depends on where the weight and the twist. I'd have to look at it, but you might look and see if it's down in another spot and it just lifts up where the house is trying to change. Um, Maybe there's enough weight in the back end that it keeps the back down, but it lifts up the middle. It's kind of weird that you would have one pier down in the middle without without not being level somewhere else. So now we talked about the straps. You can get more straps; they're not terribly expensive. You can get more anchors. There is some expense with that, but you can get more anchors. Uh, you got cable and you have phone lines. You got to consider those. Your doors, there are screws along the jamb. You take a wire, go around the doorknob. This is one of the last things you do. Wire going around the doorknob and tie it to a screw in the jamb, and then tighten that screw up. That keeps the door from popping open while you're going down the road.
I don't think they even put shims in. They're laying on the side of the block.
So that may be what happened is they didn't put it in to begin with. I certainly would not want to say that we have this massively conscientious group. The guys who do that, the labor on moving and the mover, that's a brutal job. I mean, you are wore out at the end of the day. It's stress. The driver's got stress like you wouldn't believe. I've never seen a skinny driver unless he was a massive alcoholic. Most of them are dealing with a lot of stress, and and they eat improperly and drink junk food, and anyway. Uh, Last but not least, check your moving company. Check the reports, the reviews. There's always going to be complainers. You're never going to get a perfect, review. But I have been involved way back when I first got here 31 years ago in this area. Movers that did not have a license. When I say the license, they didn't have a regular driver's
He's
license.
saying, yeah, he's booked up like crazy. I want to say the last we heard, they were booked a year out, weren't they?
No, I have
Close
I have
to a year.
movers that are not, but they get backed up quite a bit because weather. So every time it rains, it's 3 days probably. Depends on how much it rains. That they can't move if it's going off the paved road or off the gravel very much at all. You drop and you start spinning. Uh, so and there's just not enough movers. There's not enough tradesmen. So check your mover. Check his insurance. Okay, I don't want to be mean about to movers, but movers, you need to have insurance. Uh, if they, I can tell you stories where they went around a corner on a hill and there was a car coming. They ran that car off the road and didn't have insurance. It went to the homeowner. It's not very likely that the homeowner will have to pay, but you don't want to be in court for that kind of thing. You don't want your house. I know I can go on and on. I don't want to go with all these horror stories.
He's been replacing all the ones that got destroyed in the tornado here. Where are you at?
Yeah, I know this one mover had a car coming, so he to keep the car from getting smashed or in the corner he was cutting. He went off and got run the floor joist of the house on the guardrail and just tore chunks out of the floor joists going down. There's a brand new home. I mean, it hadn't even been lived in, and he tore it all up. So I had to fix it. That's how I know. So you want an experienced driver. You want somebody with insurance.
Clarksville, Tennessee.
Wow, it's tough. You got some mountains to deal with over there. We got foothills compared to yours. Uh, and my condolences to how hard your life is. But I'm well aware. I'm the guy that these movers in this area at the time would call when it was bad because I have perfect line aluminum rollers and my crew knew how to move. I knew how to get through bad situations. I was trustworthy with spotting you on the site and not having you mess up your frame and lose your house going down a hill. Believe it or not, there's a problem. If there was a mobile home company here that claimed to be totally religious, Pentecostal hairdo, and talk about how they believe in God. It was part of their sales pitch, constantly talk about how religious they were. But their driver did not have a driver's license, okay? And they were as dishonest as they could be, as a either used or new. So all these things I'm telling you, if somebody just tells you that they are, mind you, used car lots and mobile home dealers are not known for their honesty. Okay?
Mobile homes aren't allowed here anymore unless the mobile home was there before. You know, they're trying that here in the Bentonville, Arkansas area.
They're going after all the mobile home parks.
Yeah, really bad.
So
Even if they were grandfathered in, they're making it ugly.
so now we talked about all these things. The mover will take care of the lights going down the road, make sure he's usually the guy that's making sure that the doors will be secured and all those things that I'm talking about. But these are things that you need to be conscious of going down the road. Any loose siding, any loose tin, soffit and fascia, things like that, maybe even gutters. If they're going to come off, you need to go ahead and take them off so you don't have to buy a grill on a car that costs thousands of dollars. And I know your mover is going to be thinking about that. Hopefully, I've covered enough to you understand that even if somebody gives you a mobile home, you have responsibilities. Okay, uh, that's pretty much it. And I wish you guys all the best if you take on this situation. And I want you to do well. I want you to be successful. And I have no ill will toward anybody, even people that owe me money that they should have paid me. I don't have enough in me to. I don't wish to waste my time being angry about those people. I wish no one ill will. I have nobody to be angry at, and I want everyone to do well.
Anybody got any questions before we log off?
We're getting ready to go tomorrow, like always, on TikTok at 10 p.m. And I don't know, we're getting up 1,800, 2,000 views. So consider if you have anything you want to ask, you can always ask me. It does not have to be related to the subject. Happy to have anybody make any comment. Hopefully, we're catching it. Uh, all the best to you guys.
You can catch us on TikTok tomorrow night at 10 p.m.